The midday sun glared through the skylights of the sprawling martial arts gym, glinting off polished mats where silence fell before the storm. In the center stood Cole Mercer, billionaire tech mogul and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, known across the internet for his precision, discipline, and fierce competitive streak. Reporters, cameras, and trainees circled him like planets around a blazing star. He'd invited a random challenger, anyone with the courage to roll with him, he said, promising a $10,000 donation to a charity of the winner's choice. When the doors opened, no one expected Eli Tanner to walk in. A rugged, lean man in his late 30s wearing a worn-out army t-shirt and faded sweatpants. He looked out of place, his hair slightly graying at the edges, his left knee wrapped in an old brace. The crowd's whispers rippled through the room. A veteran, a single dad, stepping into a billionaire's ring. It wasn't a fair fight, or so everyone thought. If you believe in kindness, humility, and second chances, take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness Journal, because stories like this remind us that every soul carries a fight the world can't see. Cole smirked as Eli approached, offering a casual nod. "You sure you're in the right place, man?" he asked, half amused. Eli simply smiled, his quiet eyes betraying a lifetime of battles that didn't end when the gunfire stopped. He didn't come here for fame or money, only because his 8-year-old son, Mason, had begged him to. Mason had seen the billionaire's post online and said, "Dad, you always taught me to face fear. You should do it too." So Eli did. The referee called them to the mat. Cameras rolled. The billionaire's confident grin never faltered, his posture perfect, while Eli moved with the calmness of someone who'd faced far worse than a sparring match. The whistle blew. Cole exploded forward, lightning fast, his black belt precision on full display. He attempted a sweep, Eli countered. He went for a choke, Eli slipped free. The crowd gasped. The veteran's movements were quiet, efficient, and unpretentious. Every block came from instinct, every counter measured and humble. Minutes stretched like hours. Cole's confidence began to waver. Sweat pooled on the mat. Eli didn't try to dominate, he simply endured. He absorbed pressure the way soldiers learn to endure storms. He moved not to win, but to survive. The billionaire's breathing quickened, his frustration building. Then, in a sudden blur, Cole lunged for a final submission, but Eli's body shifted like water, his weight turning, his arms wrapping, and within seconds, Cole Mercer, a billionaire, world champion, and black belt, was tapping out. The room went silent. Nobody could believe what they had seen. A man who had everything was humbled by a man who had nothing left but his quiet strength. Cole sat back, catching his breath, disbelief and awe mixing on his face. Eli didn't gloat. He simply helped Cole up, nodded respectfully, and whispered, "It's not about winning. It's about standing up when life knocks you down." The billionaire stared at him, really stared, for the first time seeing not an opponent, but a mirror. When the match ended, Eli didn't wait for applause. He gathered his worn-out duffel bag and started to leave, limping slightly, unaware that millions would soon be talking about him. But Mason ran up to him, beaming with pride. "You did it, Dad. You really did it." Eli smiled, his eyes glistening. "No, buddy," he said softly. "We did it." By that evening, the video had gone viral. The internet exploded with clips of the humble veteran defeating the billionaire black belt. Yet what caught people's attention most wasn't the victory, it was the quiet grace with which Eli handled it. No arrogance, no boast, just dignity. Cole watched the replay that night in his penthouse, the city lights stretching beneath him like a river of gold. Something in him shifted. All his success, all his trophies, suddenly felt small next to that man's quiet humility. He called his assistant and said, "Find him." 2 days later, Eli received a message from Cole's team. He hesitated to respond, he'd had enough of being seen as a charity case. But when they met, Cole's first words weren't what Eli expected. "You didn't just beat me," Cole said. "You taught me something I forgot. That strength doesn't come from winning, it comes from heart." Cole asked about Eli's story, and that's when the truth unfolded. After serving 12 years in the military, Eli had returned home to a world that moved on without him. His wife had passed away during his last deployment, leaving him alone to raise Mason. Between odd jobs, PTSD, and unpaid bills, he barely made ends meet. He'd given up on his own dreams, once a promising martial artist before the war, and instead focused on just surviving. Mason was his world, his reason to keep fighting. Cole listened quietly, his expression unreadable. Then he said, "Eli, I have a proposal." "Not charity, partnership." Eli frowned. "Partnership?" Cole nodded. "I want to fund a veterans martial arts program. A place where people like you can heal, rebuild, and find strength again. I can build it, but I need someone who understands the fight from the inside." Eli was stunned. He didn't know whether to trust it. But Cole's sincerity disarmed him more than any punch ever could. Over the next few weeks, they met often. Eli helped design training sessions focused on discipline, therapy, and rebuilding confidence through jiu-jitsu. Cole handled funding, marketing, and logistics. Together, they called it Project Resilience. The first day the doors opened, 5 veterans showed up. Then 10. Then 50. Soon, the gym was full of laughter, sweat, and the sound of mats slapping as men and women learned to let go of pain one move at a time. Eli became the head coach, not because he was the strongest, but because he understood brokenness better than anyone. One afternoon, as Eli watched Mason play with other kids in the corner of the gym, Cole approached him. "You know," he said quietly, "when I first challenged that day, I thought I was testing others. Turns out, I was the one being tested." Eli smiled. Life has a funny way of teaching lessons to those who think they've learned them all. Months passed, and Project Resilience became a national story, a symbol of what compassion and collaboration could achieve. Reporters tried to paint Cole as the hero, but every time, he redirected the spotlight to Eli. "He's the reason this exists," Cole would say in interviews. "He reminded me that money builds gyms, but heart builds people." Despite the success, Eli remained humble. His focus stayed on the veterans who came in broken and left stronger. One day, a young woman, a former Medicaid, approached him after class. Tears streamed down her face as she said, "I haven't slept through the night in years, but after training here for a month, I finally did." Eli felt a lump in his throat. "That's what this is about," he said softly. But the moment that truly defined everything came one bright afternoon when Cole surprised Eli in front of everyone. After class, he called everyone together and handed Eli a framed certificate. "Eli Tanner," he announced, "for your service to this country, your dedication to others, and the humility that changed my life, this gym is officially yours. You're the owner now." Eli froze. "Cole, I can't." "Yes, you can," Cole interrupted gently. "You earned it long before you ever stepped on that mat." The crowd erupted in applause. Mason ran into his father's arms, laughing through tears. Eli held him tight, his heart full in a way it hadn't been in years. He looked around at the veterans training, at the people cheering, at Cole smiling, and realized that sometimes, the hardest battles lead to the most beautiful victories. That night, long after everyone left, Eli sat alone in the quiet gym, staring at the mats where everything had changed. The same sunlight that once glared down on him during his first match now poured softly through the windows. He thought of his wife, whispered a thank you, and felt peace, a real peace, for the first time in a decade. When Cole stopped by later that evening, he found Eli mopping the mats. "You're the owner now," Cole said, chuckling. "You don't have to do that anymore." Eli looked up and smiled. "That's exactly why I should." In that simple answer lay the truth of who he was, a man whose strength was never about dominance or wealth, but about resilience, humility, and love. If this story touched your heart, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness Journal. Your support helps spread stories that remind the world that compassion, courage, and second chances can change lives. And before you go, take a moment to comment one thing you're grateful for today, because gratitude, like kindness, grows when shared. As the camera fades out, the final image lingers, a sunlight streaming across the mats where a billionaire and a veteran once fought, not for victory, but for understanding. And in that space, two very different men proved that the greatest twin of all a broken bar is kindness.